Thanks for clicking. This video is for you. And I really mean it, because when I look at the analytics of this channel, 2/3 of the viewers of this channel, the followers, are 55 and older. And with that, even more are 45 and older. So honestly, we're all in the same boat. And when it comes to prepping and preparedness, well, we're not the spring chickens. We're not those 20-year-olds who can really handle a lot. That's why the military chooses young people for their soldiers. So what can we do? Actually, we can do a lot. Because the biggest thing is, when I see people being 45 or 55 or older, we're the wise people. We're the experienced ones. We're the actually ones that can remain calm in these situations and prepare with a logical mind instead of with emotions. We are, in reality, the best preppers. Now, obviously, we have some shortcomings. We have some problems. We're not so young anymore. We're not so resilient. It takes longer to heal. Physically fit is more challenging with us. Dietary standards change. And not to mention, of course, there's many who watch this channel who literally have physical hindrances, maybe in a wheelchair or something. But listen, I'm going to tell you right now, stay through this video. That doesn't mean anything, because every single one of us, we have a part to play. I'll show you this. But out of the numerous things I need to talk about as far as our age group goes, number one is physical. Physical really comes into play. And I don't necessarily mean rigorous physical exercise. However, if you can handle that, surely, truly, you should be doing that. And for me, let me tell you a very, very quick story. I started martial arts, it was like 14 years ago, in my 40s, early 40s. And I made it up about halfway through to get to my black belt. And I went to my first tournament ever. And I really didn't want to go to the tournament, but my instructor was saying you should go. And when I did, I kicked this guy. He was much taller than me. I kicked him in the chest and broke my foot. Because my instructor didn't tell me at the time, this is how you kick properly. And again, I didn't think I was ready anyways, and that proves I was not. All right, so anyways, I was out of training for 6 to 8 weeks. I forgot how long it was. Finally get back into training. I'm all excited, all happy. Yes, here I am. And on the first day of training back, I broke it again a second time. I was like, are you kidding me? And so I did what everybody else does, and I said, you know what? I'm too old for this. In fact, here I am. I own my own school now, and I have all kinds of tournaments and championships I've won. And when I have a adult coming in, a 40-year-old male, I'll say, hey, your kid's joining. Do you want to join too? And you know what their answer always is? Well, I'm too old for that. It's as old as you feel. I mean, they walked in there. They should be able to actually do some of this. I'm not saying they can do everything because, again, we do have hindrances. All right, long story short, a few years back, I was like, you know what? I really want to get back into martial arts again. And so I rejoined, became a black belt. Plus, I do a lot more than just being a black belt now. Again, I own my own school. And here I am. You know what? So in my 40s, in my frame of mind, I said, I'm too old for this. Here I am today. I'm in my mid-50s. And I'm literally kicking butt because I can't get my leg any higher. I'm just kidding. I kick people in the head. So there is a possibility. There is hope on the horizon. Don't ever take it that you physically can't do something. And I'm saying this to you, person in a wheelchair or who can barely walk. You can still do physical fitness. It doesn't mean you can necessarily walk or run if you're in a wheelchair, for example, but you can still get physically fit to be able to do things. You know what? This thing that's coming, this huge crap hits the fan situation, economic collapse, grid down, pick whatever's going to happen, you need to be ready for this. And if you just sit back and say, oh, I can't handle this, then you are going to succumb to whatever is coming. You have to have the positive mindset too, which we'll talk about in a minute. So you may simply need to lose weight. Maybe. Physically fitness, yes. Like, for example, when I started martial arts, I could barely kick, but now I can get my leg up really high. You can actually, in a lot of ways, revert back to the way it was when you were in your 20s or 30s. It blows my mind how well that works. But one of the things you may have to do is lose some weight. Now, I want to talk about diet. I don't want to talk about getting on a diet, although that may happen too. Years ago on this channel, this channel used to be a family channel. I would just, show my family, which I don't do anymore. And I was quite heavy. I was pretty obese, probably morbidly, because I was having some major problems, already on top of, I have brain issues. I got injured during the Gulf War. And with that, my feet were turning numb. I would collapse on the floor. And I was having all kinds of a lot more medical difficulties than I need to really even discuss here. But anyways, I had one of our followers tell us that, oh, you really need to eat better. And I'm one of those guys where, you know what, if somebody lovingly says, hey, let's talk about your diet, I'll be like, let's talk about it. As soon as somebody says, you need to do this, just my personality, I'm like, no, I don't. And they're like, you need to eat better. And I said, you know what? I live my life. That's what I do. I enjoy my life, and I eat what I want to enjoy my life. And they said to me, well, you don't understand. If you actually eat better, you'll enjoy your life more. And I was like, Yeah, whatever. And I totally discounted the information, and that's like one of my character flaws. That's who I am, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, years later, maybe it was that person's, it was a message on the community internet type thing, and I was like, and it rang in my head, maybe I need to start eating better. And so I started eating better. I did a bunch of things, like went on keto and started taking supplements and such. And sure enough, something happened I didn't realize. And that's what that nice person was trying to tell me. I researched and discovered what foods causes inflammation. Even here now, with my diet that I have works so well for me in staying trim and having maximum energy and little inflammation and stuff. Sometimes just living life, the family is like, we want pizza. And I was like, I could go for a piece of pizza too. And having a piece of pizza in my life won't kill me, but I will tell you for the next 3 days, it does, because I'll just have a slice or two. I don't go overboard. I don't know if it's the gluten. I don't know if it's the wheat. I don't know if it's the carbs. I don't know what it is, but all I know is like there's certain things like pizza, for example, the crust, for the next 3 days, I will walk around like an old man. I can barely move. My joints are stiff. I really look like the epitome of somebody who really can't do things physically anymore. And that's how I felt in my 40s. Do you understand that? And so that person was trying to tell me, look, person in your 40s, eat better. You won't feel that way. And sure enough, I eat better. I don't feel that way. And so it's actually funny, in my martial arts school that I own, I'll have the students run, certain sprints and stuff. I run right along with them. And I'm not talking about just kids. We're talking about anywhere from kids to adults. And I beat them. People who are half my age. Some of these last medals I got put into a ring with people who are 15 years younger than me, and I beat them. And it's because I think one of the biggest things is food, the inflammation, the inflammatories in the food. I personally think they're actually doing this on purpose with their foods, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. I think that, nevertheless, it's getting into our food, and it's making us feel like garbage. I mean, think about this. How can an entire civilization rebel against a tyrannical government if they have so much pain they can't even get off their couch? Think about that. So inflammation is what it's all about. Now, secondly, too, is America is the land of way too much food. Way too much food. I mean, I'm just going to use the restaurant analogy. Hey, let's go to Wendy's. I've been there in literally, I can remember when I went there last. And they have like a single burger combo. Sure, all restaurants do. They have probably a cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke or something. That's way too much food. But how it works is you go in there and the whole combo is, again, I don't eat there. I don't know how much it costs. $7 for the combo, $5, I don't know. And when you want to pay that money, you want value. So you think, oh, look, when I go to Wendy's, this is an automatic mindset in American culture, is when I pay a certain amount of money, I want to get enough food to satisfy me, right? Because a lot of people, most people eat too much. We're in a bit obese culture, at least overweight culture. And when you go in there, if you only paid $3 for an adult Happy Meal per se, not including the toy, maybe it has just like a quarter the size of a hamburger, 5 fries, and something like, some type of electrolyte instead of drinking Coke, you might say, I'll pay $3 for that. But guaranteed, the majority of people would be like, I paid $3 for this. This is garbage. There's nothing in here. That's my point. And not even talking about restaurants, but at home too. The way your mind works and the way your body works, here's a medical lesson for you to understand, that we actually have what's called a feed-forward system, where when you start smelling food, you start salivating. Pavlov proved this with his dog. And it literally starts all of your process in your digestive system. So you'll have all your stomach juices start kicking in. Literally your stomach will start moving. You're hungry. You want some food. And the only thing that's going to stop that hunger is this. You ready? You eat some food. That food gets turned in your stomach. If it's carbs, it passes through pretty quickly. Proteins and fats, it takes like up to 6 hours. But as it passes, finding the next part of your intestine, which is called the duodenum, when it gets there, it finally starts sending a feedback system back to your brain saying, oh, look, you know what? I'm starting to feel satisfied now, and I'm starting to not feel hungry. But what happens is you eat so much food and you engorge yourself and eat so much food and engorge yourself that literally you could keep piling it in, but it takes time for it to get into the duodenum to say, you know what? I'm finally full. And that's a dangerous situation. That's why America is a land of buffets, because they know you can pile in. Okay, guys, look, I'm going to be full in about 45 minutes, so get eaten. So you just chow it down, chow it down. Obviously, it's not even simply just going to Wendy's or buffets. We as a culture always want to have second helpings or third helpings or snacks in between meals. And that's my kids, how all kids are like this. But, in many parts of France, as far as the culture goes, snacks are actually frowned upon because they're like, why would you ruin, your appetite for the amazing meal that's coming, this gourmet French meal, with snacks, which is going to take away your hunger. So with that, don't eat so much food. That's very important. Now, lastly, when it comes to food, we need to talk about supplements. And the reason I say that is because in modern America, we've had over farming, leaching the ground of so many different types of trace minerals and required elements that we have to have in our food, that literally you could eat a meal and still literally have disease states kick in because you're not getting the required nutrients that you need. It's a sad situation. And like I put out a video a while ago about the 3 foods you really need are rice, beans, and canned meats. You could literally survive through eternity for those, for foods. But understand, there's so many different types of vitamins and minerals that get depleted that you have to also take supplements with that. It's very important. People are like, oh, but what about vitamin C and you have scurvy? That's true. That's one out of like dozens of different diseases that can kick in. Just for some reason, people know about scurvy, like probably Pirates of the Caribbean or something, not sure why, but that's just one. So you do have to supplement our food. And I've made videos about this. I take way too many supplements. I say that facetiously because obviously it's one of those things where I don't necessarily want to take them, but it helps me out significantly. I've done a video on this in the past of all the supplements I take. There's so many of them, and it has taken me from that obese person with high blood pressure to a person who is much thinner, much more energetic, competes in martial arts, et cetera, and I feel amazing, and my brain is sharper, and my feet almost never go numb anymore, and so many things have happened, and one of those things I can actually attribute to that are my supplements. So there's so many things that are leached out of our diet in America that you really need to increase by simply, unfortunately, supplements. I mean, if you could do whole foods and there's certain foods that work with you, great. But you may want to consider supplements. But I want to stress, if we're talking about somebody who's 45 or older, 55 or older, et cetera, the genre of people who watch this channel, we have a more difficult time getting those nutrients in our diet. We have a more difficult time absorbing them through our digestive tract. Keep that in mind. So therefore, if you are 45 or older, you certainly should be taking some supplements. Again, I've mentioned them many before. In fact, I'll go ahead and link a video after this of a lot of the supplements I take. I've actually added some of them since then to make my life more healthy. And sure enough, it works. It does very, very well. Okay, so with all that, you may be in a situation where you're in a wheelchair. You may be in a situation where, you're having a hard time physically, but you can still stockpile stuff. And this is important too, because I'm going to show you in a minute that stockpiling is important. Now, I know that the majority of channels say, stockpile, and you'll be good to go. I'm not saying that. You need to stockpile, and drill and train and prepare and do everything you can because listen, you can sit in your lazy boy with 300 cans of Chef Boyardee ravioli, is whatever they're called, sitting next to you. And if you don't know how to prepare as far as like somebody breaking in that door or hunting or building a fire, etc., what's it good for? So obviously we have a lot more than just stockpiling. But stockpiling is your first key because the next part as an older person is vital. Now I know your funds may be limited. I know that. Maybe you're in an apartment. Maybe your actually space for stockpiling is limited. I get that too. But I want to say that the last next part of it I want you to understand is you need to have positive thinking. Positive thinking is so vital. An army, which is pretty much already believed they're going to lose, will lose. And when you actually have an occupation in a territory, let's say you live somewhere and there's a foreign invasion occupied force, you may never beat them, militarily speaking. But what you do is you literally make their life a living hell, and therefore it sets it up so they lose the ability to want to say, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. So your mindset is key for this. And I think, honestly, in our genre, our age group, I think we understand that better than most people. But this is important because I talk about things on the channel, and immediately I have comments pop up. I can't afford that. I don't have the kind of this money, blah, 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 blah. Or I can't afford, or I physically, I can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And I really use the word blah, 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 because I'm telling you right now, you ready for this? This is important. Every single person on the planet has something wrong. There's nobody perfect. We all have some kind of problem. Some problems may be bigger, like I don't have any money. Some problems may be bigger, like I'm in a wheelchair. But listen, is that a reason or an excuse? You're just using it as an excuse. It may not be a reason because, listen, people in a wheelchair can still prep, can still shoot a firearm, can still, etc. Somebody who doesn't have any money, there's ways to still get food. At the very least, There's food shelters out there, and their food shelters are not simply for, somebody who literally is a single mom who living on the street. You go up and say, listen, here's my situation. I make this much money. Maybe you're like on welfare or something like that. And I live in an apartment. I have this. Do I qualify? And I almost guarantee they'll say, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with stockpiling it because, a lot of those food shelters, by the way, end up throwing away food because it spoils because there aren't people there to take it. But it's not even just that. Everybody has a problem, right? I firmly believe that. Nobody's perfect. I firmly believe also that everybody has some kind of gift or talent or ability. Everybody is made for something. Their brain, their body is accustomed to doing, you fill in the blank. So maybe you're in a wheelchair, but you know what? You spent 40 years as a teacher. Your mind's still sharp as a tack, even though your legs don't work anymore. You could easily teach some courses on whatever you want to teach. Do it online, start a YouTube channel, why not? Or do it at your local community center. You can do donations, whatever. Look, I don't even want food. I don't want money. You can just donate canned food or something. When there's a will, there's a way. And that's important. You must have that positive thinking. You never tell yourself, I can't do that. You have to be realistic. A person in a wheelchair I want to walk someday. And maybe they have no legs. You know what I'm saying? I know there's prosthetics. That's my mind thinking. There's always a will, there's a way. You don't ever say no. Don't ever say no. Never say never. And I think mindset is the biggest problem that people have. So instead of I put a video on the top canned foods to buy for meats, whatever, your answer should never be, I don't have money to buy canned meat. That should never be your answer. Your answer should be if canned meats are important to me, how can I make that happen? That is the words of a winner. That is a words of somebody who's going to survive. That's a survivor. So make sure you always stay in that mindset. But secondly, positive thinking is this. Don't ever come into a situation, crap hits the fan, an EMP hit, a coronal mass ejection, the economy's collapsed, whatever. Don't ever in the mindset of, that's it, I'm done. I'm through, I'm over. And again, I think the majority of people watching this channel, since we are older and more experienced, we're less likely to have those words. But that's something we should do. So if you're actually with someone and they keep saying, oh, that's it, we're done for, you need to say, look, stow it. No more of this talk. We're going to make it. We're going to make it through this. So with that, as the older, more experienced people, I'm going to get to the last thing here that you really need to know. This is the most important thing we can do. Even though you may not see yourself this way, you are part of what's called the mentoring generation. We're the older generation. We have the experience. We have the life. We have the know-how. We can go through all these things. We've been through these things. So it's our responsibility, not necessarily just join a group, but I really will challenge a lot of you guys. You need to form a group. And I talk about this. Let's say you live in a small town. Obviously, this works for a city too. Go all these places that possibly people with this mindset might go. Maybe there's a gun store. Maybe there's a pawn shop. Perhaps even the library, a local club. Maybe like up here in Michigan, there's a Moose Club. I've never been there. Or maybe there's, maybe there's an American Veterans or a Disabled American Veterans or a Foreign Legion or something like that. Make flyers and say, hey, look, Wednesday at the library in the basement at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a preppers meeting. You can stay anonymous. You can stay anonymous. Don't give them your name. My name is Prepper Bob, and they have no idea what your name is. Don't even put your phone number on there. You may have to give it to the library, but you can tell them keep it anonymous. And then when you get down there, the first meeting, you organize this. You are the more experienced person. You're the leader. The younger people are looking for this. They're looking for a leader. Okay, let me tell you another quick story that this blew my mind. Literally just a couple days ago. We have a brand new black belt who signed in our school. She got her black belt at a different school and joined us, which I'm very excited about. And her dad is a deputy for a local county. Super guy, cool guy. We talk all the time. And he was telling me, because we're talking about like today's younger generation on how there's problems coming around. And you know what he said to me? He goes, it's really weird. The more and more I run into these kids, obviously we're talking about even in their 20s, obviously. He goes, they're begging, please, can you discipline me? Please, can you show me the way? Please, can you tell me which way to go? This really is the lost generation because there's been so much shoved down their throat of participatory medals and everything else. They've taken away their essence in life. And it's our job. And that's why, honestly, I think that's probably one of the number of things I love about having a martial arts school is I get to be that person who inspires them and tells them, you can do this, you can make it. They thrive on hearing I can actually be a winner and do things in life. Because I think there's so many things put on these kids nowadays that are like that. And so with that, you form these groups. You're going to have some younger people coming into this. Granted, I don't think personally a lot of younger kids will, unless they're actually more into survival. But regardless, they're going to be their mentor. You need to actually organize this. And you may not actually be the one teaching some of the things during your group, but you will get constant people coming in saying, I would love to teach. I would love to teach this and show about like solar or whatever the case may be. So we need to be that person. Now, in that groups also, we're talking about you need to have groups at home as well. And this is where basically the stockpiling comes in. Because let's say you do have some extra money you stockpiled and crap hits the fan. Maybe you have a son who lives nearby. Maybe you have a neighbor, there's a younger neighbor that's living nearby, and they have the physical ability to do things, but you don't. But you're like, listen, there's safety in numbers. There really is, by the way. While you go out and hunt, while you go out and do security, while you go out and do this and this and this, how about I come into your house or vice versa, or we meet in this one location. That's our bug out location. Don't bug out in the woods, by the way. Find an actual location. Maybe you have a cabin. I'll bring all my food and I'll share it. And what I'll bring to the table is I may be in a wheelchair, but I can still keep watch. I can still watch outside. I can cook some food. I can watch your little kids while you take care of the bigger business. Because you know what? Another analogy we look at this, or an idiom, is desperate times call for desperate measures. In these situations, if you have a dad who's like 33 and he has 3 small kids and a wife, and he's like, wow, now I have to go out and hunt and all this stuff to bring food in because we don't have it anymore. Having one more person in the house, granted it's a little bit more food, but you're hunting to do this, they would often jump on that. And as being an older person, this goes back to the way things used to be. And I think you know this. Being in our generation, we know this, how it used to be, where, you know what, instead of actually having nursing homes, and I mean, there's times you have to have a nursing home, medically speaking. I get that. But an old age home here, you know what, dad or grandpa, you'll be more happy there. Look, they take once a week trips to Bingo and Walmart, and there's a pool table and a cafeteria, and look at those old ladies down there, see ya. And the families will take off, leaving the older people in these old age homes. It used to be the older people, the middle-aged people who were workers, and the kids all lived in one location. And the older person, you know this, I'm preaching to the choir, you know this. And the older people would help with watching the little kids while the middle ones worked. They would actually help with food, possibly shopping. There's so many things that they could do. But listen, when desperate times call for desperate measures, and we're talking about crap hits the fan, invaluable. You will be invaluable, even if you are in a wheelchair, even if you have no money. Because in these situations, it may not be mom and dad who are 33 going off to work, but instead mom and dad who are 33 instead are going to be now trying to hunt, fish, have security, dig a latrine, or obviously the list goes on and on. Because they have the muscle, you have the experience, and therefore you can literally mentor them as well. Maybe they need to work on their car. They don't know how to do that. Maybe they need to work on some plumbing for the house. They don't know how to do that. You may not be able to turn the wrench for the plumbing, but you know how it's done and you can help them out. So even though today's society truly cast out our generation, and soon enough, the generation of 65 to 75, I know a lot of people are in that age too, as preppers and prepared people, we do not. All people are valuable, and we all need to work together in the community. So listen, if you fall in that category, which you probably do watching this, don't take no. Don't have a pessimistic attitude. Don't always look at the glass as only half empty. You want to always make sure that you play this part and have the mindset for doing this. Because there's a place for everyone. And when I tell you, when we see the worst of the worst nightmares our country has ever seen, we're going to need to band together in these situations, because the only way we can actually survive this is as a group. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.